Okay. Feels like I just got out of this chair. I sit down and had a chat with Representative McIntyre. So anyway, we'll head into Kathy. I'll turn it over to you. It looks like we have three different things we got looking at today.
Yes, we do. Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director. So the first thing we're going to talk about is fee setting. It's pretty light. I think you already did fee setting for the Health and Human Services Department.
Yeah.
And then no other department has submitted anything other than Public Works and so Public Service. So we're going to, no. So we need to hand them out, right? So we have our fee setting for the equipment revolving fund. And we have our fee setting for water sewer rates. And I don't, Kelly, did we want to put it on the screen? Did it?
Did she not put it in?
Let me see. Which one do you want to do first?
Let's do the R&R first.
So I'll turn it over to Sean Rowley.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Sean Roy, Public Works. The first rate item we have in front of you today is for ER&R. This is our road fund vehicles and equipments. We have a list in front of you of categories on types of vehicles ranging from dump trucks to light trucks, heavy trucks, graders, loaders, water trucks, all kinds of different varieties of categories. So each one of these categories has their rate set on an hourly rate independently. This covers both the maintenance of the vehicle, the reserve, as well as fuel of the vehicle itself. And these are calculated on a 5-year average for maintenance, a 3-year average of use hours, and our estimated replacement in the future looking 20 years forward. And that's how these are coming through. Overall, we're looking about a 2% across the board. Some of them are going to be higher, some of them are going to be lower depending on each individual vehicle type.
How did we determine the 26 numbers? Because some of them, like you said, some of them go up, some of them go down.
Yeah, like we said, it's a 5-year rolling average on maintenance, the 3-year average on hours of use, and then the current replacement cost futured out 20 years for reserves on that as well. So we have the dollars to replace it moving forward. We're covering the cost to maintain the vehicle and then the cost of fuel with the vehicle, all divided by the number of hours used on average to get down to an average rate on that.
So each one's an independent calculation.
Yeah, each
line.
category of them would be an independent calculation.
So you use the same methodology last year as it?
So some of the items that may have a larger effect on it is if the use of the vehicles differ significantly, the hours, that may skew it because it is a shorter year period. So if 2 years we're using heavy hours on it and maybe a lighter hours of use the third year, that could skew it significantly. Or if we have a significant repair, significant, but usually with the 5-year average across that averages out so that you're consistent on that side of the rate. And this is for internal billings really between ER&R and the roads fund. And if another entity wanted to rent a vehicle from us or a piece of equipment for the weekend or the week, we would use these same rates for that.
Who would another entity be?
We've had times where, say, the city of Castle Rock wants to borrow one of our chippers for a week to take care of some of their trees, something like that, another governmental agency.
They're getting a pretty good rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't let them use my excavator for that.
Gee, why not?
So as part of the budget process, we present these today, but you formally adopt the fee rates when we put the entire budget together. It's one of the resolution items. So today's basically for your information and just to make sure that we're headed in the right path.
Okay.
Because we wouldn't want you to reject it on December the 2nd. That would put a crimp in my plans.
Well, we might just play with you a little bit, but this is the same formula you've been using for how long?
I think this workbook itself, I think goes back to at least 2012.
So history has shown that using this 5-year, 3-year and replacement has covered what we need.
It's been pretty good. 21, 22 was a little shaky with how fast equipment costs were going up. It took a little bit to get back on track.
Yeah, they were skyrocketing for a while, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
These, oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, and no questions. So these will be the rates that you'll see on December 2nd.
The next item up is water sewer rates. Last year, Commissioner Dell, I'm sure you remember, we had a pretty good discussion on these, on what our average rate should look like and some of the items along with those. We tried to be more consistent this year, continue with the 4% until we have a formalized rate study and capital plan in place for this with all the ARPA dollars that have been in place recently and really helping us achieve our capital agenda for all those large 6 projects, the meter replacements, the Tootle treatment plant, the low pressure zones, which are currently in process. We need to take a look back at our capital plan. And then once that's complete, present that to the board and have a brand new rate section together at that point. Historically, we had been doing 3% until last year. We'd like to move forward with the 4% moving forward.
This is for, what are we, about 3,200 people?
I think
Is it all the water or is this
it's a mixture. I think we have about 1,200 connections, 1,250 on water and about 800 sewer connections.
on this that would be affected by this?
Mhm.
It's just,
So the areas we're looking at in the county are going to be Riderwood, Woodbrook for sewer, the Tootle Spirit Lake Highway area, and Tootle River Drive area, as well as Camelot.
okay.
And as Kathy was discussing, the only rates we've changed are the base fee and consumption. The rates on the right-hand side of the page for connection fees, new customers, damages, SDCs, those did not change for 2026. Those have remained consistent.
I recall correctly, we did quite a bit of change on that last year.
We did.
Yeah.
So we're just jumping the rate from 3% to 4%.
Yep. So in 25, we did a 4% increase on the residential side and a 10% increase on industrial. For 26, we're just recommending a 4% across the board.
So you feel that the 4% is gonna be enough to make it to where if we have to make major repairs to our infrastructure, we're bringing in enough to cover that?
I would say until we have a formal capital plan in place, and a better rate study to justify any significant increases or changes to the fees, that we would need those before we come back with anything substantial.
I would tell you, we probably don't,
Okay.
but I don't think that's unusual. And I think there's at times, like you mentioned, Camelot, we're using our ARPA funds. So sometimes outside funds come to help us, but if you're just talking in-house funds, I would tell you, looking at the numbers last year, no.
Because this is a topic that at all the city council meetings I've been to in the last couple of weeks, they're talking about raising their rates because they don't have enough money to go out there should something happen with their infrastructure.
Yeah.
So good afternoon, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. That is probably an extremely true statement. We have all of our capital improvement plans are out of date. That is the big push for next year to get all of our water system plan updated, get all of our sewer plans, general sewer plans in place. So we have a good knowledge of what projects we have to do, and then work on our rate structure so that we can at least have the match for CDBG is a big funder, and then there's revolving loans that you can also apply for that are commonly used for water and sewer systems. So that's what we'll be looking at doing, getting our capital plans, getting a good rate study so that we can truly set this up properly.
Yeah, that sounds good, because my main concern is us getting into a situation to where 4% isn't enough, and now we're looking at 8 or 9, doubling that to cover the situation that we're in. So as long as we're being proactive with it, that's good.
And those are the only two rate items we have for today from Public Works. I don't know if Kathy has any more.
Yeah, as I said, we hadn't received any other, I know that Building and Planning had told me they weren't going to change any rates, and we already did the health department, so. To my knowledge, we don't have any other ones. Okay, so we can, next item is our 6-year road plan. Yeah. They should have them electronically, or you can hand it out either way. Whatever works.
I don't know if I have or not.
Yeah, I'll bring it up on.
Let me see it and I'll tell you. Thank you. Oh, I have.
This one. No. Okay. Yep.
All right, so Susan Eugenius, County Engineer, and we're here to talk about our capital plan, and then tomorrow you'll hear our full budget, including our maintenance items, but this is just our road capital plan. So I thought I'd take chance and a moment to give you kind of more of a rundown on the road system as a whole, kind of some background and information. So our road system is 527 centerline miles. And that's important because that is what our motor vehicle fuel tax is based on. So the CRAB takes all of the miles of roads, they calculate up what our percentage is, and they break up motor vehicle fuel tax based off of that. Of our 527 centerline miles, We have 70 approximately that are in the urban area, so about 13%, with the 457 remaining miles in the rural area of our road system. We currently have 5 miles that are unpaved. And we actually, that number is probably off because that's the number from the end of 2024. And this summer we triple shot part of Primrose, which was one of our remaining primitive roads. So we're working on that to get them all paved because it's a lower maintenance for us, paved roads. So we do report this information annually to CRAB. It's a requirement, and we switched recently from a road maintenance, which was a database, to a Gizmo system that is ArcGIS based. So we'll talk. That's our fun and adventure. So within our county road system, there are 68 bridges currently. Of the 68, 37 bridges are 50 years or older. So that's more than half of our bridges are over 50 years. The expected life of a bridge is 50 to 75 years. We have load restrictions on 13 of our bridges, which is 19%. Our 3 oldest bridges are over 80 years old, the oldest one being on Old Highway 99 South. It's the Owl Creek Bridge, and that was constructed in 1922, part of the original Highway 99 system. The 2 other oldest bridges are Barnes Drive, which is a 1923 bridge, and the Old Pacific Highway North, which is the Toutle River Bridge, also known as the Mickey Mouse Bridge, and that one was constructed in 1935. So those are our 3 oldest bridges, all over 80 years old. The definition of a bridge, just so people are aware, is anything that has a clear span of 20 feet or longer at the road center line is considered a bridge. Anything in between 6 feet and 20 feet is what we call a short span. Short spans are not eligible for federal highway dollars, where all bridges are, whether or not they're on the federally classified system, which is an important difference for funding. We currently have 3 bridges scheduled for replacement, which is actually incorrect as of late in the day yesterday. So Allender Road Bridge is scheduled for replacement. That's our most highly load rated, and that is being replaced with STP bridge money. And then we have Allender Road Culvert number 1, which is under design. That's a 1953 bridge, also has load rating. Then we have the Owl Creek Bridge that I talked about earlier on Old Highway 99 that we are currently working on the design. Excuse me. I just was notified yesterday afternoon that the list of bridges that are being funded in the most recent bridge call, which came out this past spring, is out, and Mill Creek Bridge number 1 is receiving design and replacement funding, and that is a 1958 bridge. So when we're done with the Garlock construction, that will bring our bridge count up to 69. And then next year, we will be replacing 2 culverts on South Cloverdale, which will get us up above 70 bridges in our system. Some of the interesting facts, we still have 2 bridges that have wooden piles. So one of them is the Allender Road Bridge that we're replacing because of the status of the piles. There's also still one out on Delameter that has wooden piles. And then, I'm going to get the wrong name. We do have a wooden deck out on Spruce Creek, I believe, is the one they told me it still has a wooden deck that we've paved over. So the wood tends to rot faster than the steel and the concrete bridges. So that's why some of those are being replaced earlier than others. The picture on the page is actually Madro Bridge. I did not grab a stock photograph. Additional items within our road system are the short spans, which we discussed. We have about 75 short spans in our system. And they can be anything from a large culvert to box culverts. We have normal culverts, which we have hundreds of, which we're completing our inventory on so we know what condition they're in. Sidewalk, We have striping, signs, guardrails, streetlights, and Cowlitz County is the proud owner of one traffic signal. We own the traffic signal at the base of the Fiberway Bridge at East Mill Road. That is the only traffic signal in our system. So any questions about our general system? All right, so we'll move on to the 6-year transportation program. This is required for every county to complete every year. It is part of our CRAB requirements. And in addition, you're required to do a 6-year transportation improvement plan for WashDOT. We adopt ours as part of the budget process as part of the CRAB requirements. There's WAC 13615 that requires this process. In that documentation, which is the longer sheet of paper that Sean handed out, is the breakdown of the project. It shows the project name, the year, how much it's going to cost, what's your funding, your milepost, and then you break it down, total cost, and then by year. So common funding sources for our road program is Surface Transportation Block Grants, which we get both rural and bridge money from. That's federal dollars. There's Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program, which is HIFSIP. There's Protect funding, which is a federal program. Then we also have federal funding from both FEMA and FHWA emergency funds. We have tried unsuccessfully in the past to get some BRIC funding for some of our projects, which is a FEMA area. We got really close in this last round and they shut it down before they awarded anything. And then one other year we were like the 20th alternate on the list, but we'd never received funding. We also work on state funding. So our biggest pot of state funding is CRAB RAP funding. And the CRAB has a new program, which they'll be rolling out next year, which is the Local Access Road Program. So that's going to be an interesting new program for us to try and take advantage of, because the RAP program can only be used on your arterials and collectors. We also have state Brian Abbott Fishberry Removal Board money that we've obtained in the past, and we've tried for smaller programs. There's a newer program coming out with the state. It's also safety that we have not been successful at yet, but we just keep looking for ways to fund this. And then we have our local road fund. Sean tells me I have $1 to $2 million a year available, and that is what we use for our match or for local only projects. So because of our, how do I put this nicely? Because of our lack of delivery due to various sundry factors is why we have the backup that we have in our balance, not backup, balance that we have in the road fund, and why you'll see I have such a big road construction planned for this next year. A typical project is developed one of two ways. It is either something that is brought to me by a citizen, somebody on the road crew, or from one of our priority arrays that we're required to develop as part of this program that says this program location is a high accident location. This corridor needs to be upgraded because it's narrow, doesn't meet the standards. And we work that through, put it on the, get a preliminary budget and scope and size it out, and then we start looking for ways to fund it. So there's those type of projects that are on the list. And then the other ones that you see, sometimes emergency events, everything's not a short-term fix. So when we have an emergency, we go out and we fix the problem, open the road up, but there's a lot of times we need to go back and repair things. For example, on Rose Valley Road in 2022, one of our flood events, we lost 2 end sections on a culvert that was quite deep, and the roadside was eroding away. But because the culvert doesn't meet fish passage rules, we were not allowed to just stick the 2 end sections on, rebuild the embankment, and walk away. So we did an emergency project with this is federal funds from FHWA because it's an arterial. So we did that, reopened the road. Fish and Wildlife said you can leave it that way, but you have to go back and replace it to meet current design standards. So one of our projects, Rose Valley Road 7.72, which is on this list, has the emergency funding to go back and meet our environmental permit requirements and replace it with a culvert that meets current standards. So you will see projects like that come on our list, and slides are another one where we will do a temporary fix and then go back and fix them permanently.
Susan, could you go back to your statement about when you were trying to find words to speak nicely of whatever that situation was and repeat that for me one more time?
So in an ideal world, I would have a project, obtain funding, we'd get it designed right away, purchased, and permitting done in 2 years and construct it the following year. So that never seems to happen. Let's take South Cloverdale. So South Cloverdale, we had several property owners that were holdouts. We had to work through issues such as divorces and deaths, and then some people who just said no. So our right-of-way, instead of being 6 to 9 months, was more like 1.5 to 2 years. We finally got everything ready to go. We were ready to go out to bid, and we got back, oh, by the way, environmental rules have changed since you got your original permit. You need to go back and redesign your storm. So we then had to go back and redesign our storm, which made changes on our plans, which held us up another 4 to 6 months, and then we could go out to bid. So that project lingered longer due to those issues. You always think right away, oh, what's the big deal? They're buying a 2-foot strip along the front of your property. It's amazing how that is a big deal for a lot of people. Or some of the oddities that you find where somebody's spouse died and they didn't know they had to go through probate and straighten up all of their property records. So it's still listed as the ownership of the husband and wife, and either the wife or the husband has passed away. And so getting that cleared up adds 2 or 3 months to the process. So I am working on trying to get my schedules to have that extra time in and it meet the funding agencies' timelines and setting expectations for everyone.
So are those, take Cloverdale, is that an anomaly or is that typically the way that it works with most projects?
Lately, that seems like it's how everything is working. And it's something different every time. Not going to bring up what project it is, but we have another project where the owners were all ready to sign. The tragedy struck the family. One spouse died, the other ended up in a care facility. You know, we have all those type of things that you can't predict. And so those unpredictability sometimes, so the Dyke Road, which we'll talk about, that one, we have a 408 permit in it. Permit that's required. We've applied for that. We're almost to the 2-year mark. We still do not have it. So sometimes you go to an agency and they want more information. And so it takes you a while to get all that information and make the changes. And then you go back and you're back in the back of the queue again. So it varies from project what the problem is, but I would tell you property is probably the biggest. And then working on your environmental permits and making sure that something hasn't changed in the timeline where you're working on the project.
Is there anything within our scope that we could do to improve that process or make it run more efficiently for us?
That is one of the things we've been talking about. So in 2019, I believe, we hired one of our right-of-way agents, and we hired the second after 2020 at some point. And they have been working on improving the processes, trying to reduce our reliance on consultants by becoming, you have to get certifications from WashDOT, so trying to get those. So instead of having a third party doing everything, we have some more internal, which we have more control over. Because appraisers in the past few years have been, you go and you want an appraisal and you're 4 months out, 5 months out. And then you get into these negotiations and you give them their appraisals, and people by rights and by law, they can get an independent appraisal on their own that we have to pay for. And then that sets you back too, because then they're waiting for an appraiser, not to no fault of their own. And so these things snowballs, but we're working on getting our internal appraisals done so that we cut the timeline between here's what the amount of property is that we need and actually getting the appraisal back. So we've been working on that, which will hopefully speed up the process, and having that person more directly involved. We will still maintain that appraisal list because sometimes we hear it, well, of course he's going to appraise it low. He's works for the county. So there will be some situations where we have a third-party reviewer, especially because when you have federal money in it, you're required to have an appraisal and then a review appraisal. So when we have those situations, we will be doing probably the review appraisal and have the independent person do the appraisal. So we're trying to streamline this. It's an interesting pickle because every time we turn around, we seem to have a new situation that we've never come across before.
I think it's important to recognize, and it sounds like you do, that in my profession, that was brought up, time is money. And so if we're not being efficient and things are being put off and put off and put off, the project gets more expensive and more expensive, and then funding becomes more difficult. So
We definitely see that things are getting more and more expensive every year it sits out there. All right, so the summary of our 2026-2031 program. 2026, we have an estimated cost of $23.8 million. And it varies year by year as spread out, with the total 6-year cost of being $142.5 million. No, I am not going to build that in 6 years. All honesty. I'll tell you what the most important things to look at. So for the 2026 year, we have 99% of that funding is secured, and that is now going to change because I have that Mill Creek secured. So I will go through and change that number. So all of the money for 2026 is secured so that we can go through and do those projects. Moving along to 2027, 2/3 of that money is obtained, and then it drops rapidly beyond that year. So some of the 2028 projects are funded. About 40% of that money is secured. Beyond that, these are the projects that we're looking at for trying to find funding sources. And so that is one of the keys, because when you're applying for grants, they ask you, is it on your capital program? So I have a lot of projects on there past 2028 that I am looking for funding, and in all honesty, that is where you guys can really impact the program moving forward on setting priorities and coming up with other ideas. So that's the benefit of having this workshop not on the day of the hearing, because if you look at one of the last pages in here, I have a list of the projects that we're looking at, and you see project on Apple Blossom Lane, and you think that's really important, that's some good information for us so that we can work on Apple Blossom Lane. I made Apple Blossom Lane up. We do not have an Apple Blossom Lane in our system. I didn't want to single anybody out. So the next page shows the 2026 funding broken down by what our funding source is and by the phase of the project. So in 2026, 16% of our funding will go to our design engineering, 3% to right-of-way, and 81% to construction. Our federal share for 2026 is about $7.7 million, which is 52% of the funding. We have 3.8 of state funding, and then our local is 12.3 million, which includes ARPA funding. We have ARPA funding on the South Cloverdale project, the Tower Road project, and then a West Side Highway slide at about $5.9 million. So there's 6.4 million of local dollars that we'll be spending in 2026, assuming all projects go, which I will talk about the one I think potentially won't go next year, which I have included in this amount. The ARPAs will. This is a project that does not have, I'm not going to get you excited. The ARPAs will go. So the next shows our 2026 construction projects. So we have South Cloverdale Road, which we know we've advertised, awarded, they've begun work. So we're estimating of the I didn't write it on that page. Of the $7.5 million bid, there'll be about $5.6 million left next year because we're getting towards end of season and we have not done a significant amount of work. So the South Cloverdale Road, South Delaware Comfort, obviously it's under construction. Allender Road Bridge project replacement, that one is currently out to bid. And that's a $2.25 million project with SDP Bridge and local funding. About $2 million of that is federal bridge money. So the local match is under $300,000. The big project that has a lot of local money, that is the one I'm saying I'm 50-50 on whether it's going to go, is Dyke Road reconstruction. That is the one we are waiting on, that 408. I have no idea when we're going to obtain that permit.
That comes from the Corps, right?
That comes from the U.S. Army Corps.
Yeah.
So that is one of the big thing, linchpin on that project. It has a high local dollar match. We
Cause see,
have-
isn't one of the companies going in can contribute to this too?
One of the companies going in was going to do some paving for us, yes.
Say,
Yeah.
so what'd you call that permit again?
The U.S. Army Corps, it's a 408.
408 permit?
Yes. So that is the project that $3.4 million of local money and $1.6 million of CRAB money. I desperately wanted that to go just for everybody down there because we've been dealing with this for a long time.
Yeah.
So it'd be really nice to get that done. And then there are 5 other projects that are going to go out next year. 3 restorations, which are landslides and 2 drainage projects. We move on to the next one. We have 2026 design projects. So we have over $4 million of design going on next year. I listed the big ones. We have Delameter Road Culverts projects, so that has protect funding in it, and that's $930,000 of design. It's going to be 2 large structures. Replacement protect funding was some of that ILJA money that was a pass-through from the state that we are taking advantage of to get a couple of older short spans replaced. We have Burma Road Extension, which is the Tootle Park Road. We're just going to keep working on that design and so that we're ready if we need it.
We kind of got lucky in Tootle Park last year. We didn't have a great or a winter that took a lot of it away, did we?
Yeah.
We didn't lose much more of it, if anything, did we? Yeah.
No.
So that was lucky good.
And then we're also working on that Owl Creek Bridge replacement down on Old Highway 99. Several drainage projects. We have safety projects, some corridor projects, and some local restorations. Then I gave you the pretty picture part of the program. So this is just showing the projects. So we have South Cloverdale Road, which we've talked about. Next is Allender Road. This one is particularly, the neighbors are particularly excited over this occurring because it is so heavily load rated. You cannot take a well drilling truck across it. And there's a parcel out there that they've been trying to sell, but they cannot do the septic cleaning and some of the other things that need to be done. So once this project is
Wow.
done, you will be able to,
Can't even take those across, huh?
no, it is that heavily load rated.
Yeah.
This is a
You
timber.
got the new one and all the log trucks are coming in, they're gonna be yelling at you.
Yes, and it'll be speeding and why do I have so much traffic on my road? Yes, that is exactly what's going to happen. I'll tell them that you can, yeah. So bid opening is November 10th. So hopefully we'll get a good bid on that and we'll get this constructed next summer. The plan is we're going to build a temporary bypass bridge, take the old one out, put the new one in, and go on our way. And once the temporary is in, the temporary is required to be a minimum of one lane that will carry a legal load. So as long as it's a legal load, they'll be able to go across it.
Let me ask another question on Dyke Road. Is the 408 permitted, or why are they holding that up? Are we doing something different to that road? Are we
So-
trying to widen it, or
So
there must be
there's,
something we're doing?
the reason they're holding it up is because of the utilities. So because we are requiring some of the utilities to get out of our way, they're requiring us to include in our permit all of the utilities. And we have been struggling with the utilities to get us accurate information that meets the Corps' requirements. So that's what we've been going back and forth with. So I saw an email today asking where that last piece of information was, and I'm hoping that it gets to the Corps soon. So that is, so this roadway, we're going out because the original road was constructed on top of the dike and there's no base on it. So we're going through, we're grinding the existing asphalt that's out there, adding rock so that we can have a good, I can't remember off the top of my head if it's a 9 or a 12-inch rock section, and we're mixing concrete in with it. And then we'll put 4 inches of asphalt on top. So we have an arterial section out there. We're also correcting some of our vertical and horizontal curves. The drainage will be improved, and we're going to put shoulders out there. So it'll be it will be a road that will meet the growing industrial purpose that's out there. Because the way the road exists now, it was designed for farm traffic once a year in the summer when it's dry and residential. It does not have a section for industrial traffic, which is what that area is going. This section will be just short of where that asphalt plant and concrete goes. They're just short of that, but it goes from where we ended our last phase to just shy of that. So then we'll have to look in the future doing from where this project ends till when you get around the corner on Dike access and you go to
When we get all the utilities, the underground, the stuff that they're asking for, will that solve the problem for the rest of it? Because we'll have it all mapped then, or?
it should. Yeah, we should be ready to go. Once they have all of that, that meets their requirements. Our plans are at 95%. We take them to that point, and then we wait till the very end because the WashDOT specifications change every year. So we do not finalize our specifications until right before we go out to bid so that we have the current upfront. And this year, between 2025 and 2026, they've made a major change. So we have what we call divisions, Division 1, 2, 3. Well, they've changed part of Division 1 until Division 2, and so there's some substantial changes. So it would have been a big effort if we hadn't taken the specs all the way to the final. Now we do more at the end, and we make sure that we try and do a last review of the plans because nobody's eyes have been on it for a while. So sometimes you find those things that everybody thought were right that were just a little off. So that hopefully, fingers crossed, we're doing that in January, February, so that we're constructing this in the nice dry season because that cement treated base needs that. And it also, Woodland is windy and wet, so
Yeah.
can be tricky down there to hit the season just right. So we want to maximize the time we have between July and mid-September.
Whose responsibility is it to get the utilities to them? The information that they're needing from the utilities?
So we're relying on the utilities to get it to us because it's our project. There are franchisees. And so that we are requiring them to move in order to do this project. So the Corps decided that instead of having everybody get their own 408, they do one 408, which is all on the county's back because it's our project, to make sure that the utilities got the proper permitting. That was their thought process.
So it's incumbent upon us to go to those franchisees to get that information.
Yes. And so that is what we are doing. And the project engineer on this project pinged one of the utilities, the last one we're waiting on earlier today. Where are your plans? You promised them to me last week. So. And just so that you know, every year, when the 6-year plan is adopted, we send out the 6-year plan to all of the utilities saying, here's what we have coming up. And in years past, we have met with PUD. There have been times when they wanted to talk about some of our projects and the timing. So we do send this out annually, so it should not be a surprise to them what's coming up. We also send out plans at the 30 and 50% milestones. Here's our plans. Here's what we think you're going to have to move. So we make them aware through the process that this is coming.
Yeah. This is a frustration, and you guys have seen some of it. We've tried to clean up some of that to give us a little more teeth because some of them just drag their feet.
And some of them, it's not Cowlitz County. Some of them, it's statewide. I mean, what was it? The one we were dealing with last year, I talked to other county engineers that were having the same issues.
Yeah.
So. Okay, next project is everybody's favorite exciting project. Rock Creek Culvert Tower Road. So that is scheduled to be constructed next year. Then our small construction projects for next year are Butte Hill slide repair. It has FEMA money in it. Bates Road embankment repair, that is moving Bates Road away from the Kalama River. West Side Highway slide repair is a slide that did not occur during a declared event, and so you generously gave us ARPA money to complete that. A South Tootle Road culvert head wall repair is about a $300,000 repair project. So this is the one that crosses Studebaker Creek. When we were doing inspections, when they go out and do the bridge inspections, this is actually a short span. They also look at the short spans, and they found that the head wall was deteriorating and about to slide it into the creek. So we are working, the plans are sitting on my desk right now to do a review so that we can do a repair to that next summer. And then Rose Valley Road Culvert 7.72 was the other project I had talked about earlier. So 2026 design projects that I'm aiming for 2027 construction. We have Pleasant Hill, which we talked about this morning, which if If you'd asked me last year at this time, the Pleasant Hill would be out to bid right now. But I have reset my expectations, and I am planning on hoping that we get through our environmental next year and we can go out to bid early 2027. So Allender Road repair, this is actually beyond the bridge that we're repairing. The roadway is bluffing into Stillwater Creek. This is an all-local access. The road is down to approximately 1 lane. We are working with the property owners on a couple alternatives. Just goes along my right-of-way tails. So when we originally started this project, the property owner said, there's no way you're taking my tree or coming closer to my house, build within your right-of-way. So we were planning on a big reinforcement in the creek. That owner has since passed, and we are working with the heir to actually move the road further away from the creek, take some, purchase some property from them, remove this giant tree, which was what the other gentleman was so attached to, and get our full lane width back that way. So we're working with them on a couple alternatives, and then we're gonna show it to Fish and Wildlife and get their buy-in, and then we'll go on and get the design done and permitted and the right-of-way purchased. These are the Delamere Road culverts, which I talked about. They are currently 2 short spans, so they're currently 10-foot wide concrete, 10-foot long boxes, 10-foot clear spans. One was built in 1948, the other was built in 1954. They are reaching the end of their life, and new structures will be approximately 40-foot span bridges. So if you guys are wondering how we develop that size, just kind of the Fish and Wildlife rule of thumb is you go out upstream and downstream, you take the average cross-section width of the stream when it's not being constricted by the culvert. You take that width, you multiply it by 1.2 and add 2 feet. So if it's a 10-foot average width channel, you multiply it 1 by 1.2, so it'll be 12. And so you'd have a 14-foot span, clear span would be your requirement. I picked 10 because it's easy math.
What's a 13?
171. So next is Allender Road Culvert number 1. Allender is getting a lot of my attention this year. So this is a 10 by 12 double box. So the clear span is 20. So this one is considered a bridge. It does have load ratings on it. We have received design money from the Bryan Abbott Fish Barrier Removal Board, and we are just awarded the construction money. Our design is at 90%, and we're working on finalizing our permits and right-of-way. So we're anticipating a 2027 construction. The total project will be about $3.5 million. Next is East Canyon View slide repair. So this is at the end of East Canyon View. East Canyon View is off of Columbia Heights up in that area. So we discovered this slide sometime towards the end of winter. We are working, it says all local dollars. So this is an example of a project that we do in conjunction with our on-call engineers. So we used our on-call geotech. They have gone out and done some borings and are developing a recommended design, in this case, a buttress for us to build. So we will take their recommendations, do a design, get their buy-off on it, and then we will proceed into construction once we obtain the right-of-way. Rose Valley Road, culverts 11.8. So this is crab money project. It is a drainage issue. As you see, there's double culverts out there. You can't really tell from this picture, but the inlet side, just upstream of it, is very steep. So it comes down very steep, drops, and this is where it flattens out. So when there's a heavy rainstorm or there's been a lot of logging upstream, those culverts will plug up. It comes up over the road quite frequently. So this is more of a flooding issue for us than a fish, which is why we're using crab money to do a drainage project versus some fish barrier removal board money. So this is the other type of drainage projects that we have quite commonly. We have flooding issues versus our fish and falling apart issues. This, you can't tell in this picture, the upstream end of the one of the two culverts is also damaged. When it was plugged, we were out in a storm and you're in a backhoe and they just pull the materials out. And so sometimes our end sections will get damaged. So there are a number of other projects that are not 2027 construction that we'll be working on. Some of our bigger projects, so we have the Burma Road extension, which is all local. So we're just going to get that prepped and we'll do it when we have to. Our Owl Creek Bridge replacement, and we have Gilmore Road, Studebaker Creek culvert replacement. That is another protect project. Whitewater Road curve improvements. So this has highway safety funds. We are just another one of the projects that we just obtained funding from in the past few months that we're adding on to our program. And this is a project that was brought to us by a road supervisor. So Whitewater Creek is developing more. It's not wide, it's under 20 feet in width. So when people are going around this curve, they have difficulty staying in their lane. So this project just addresses that section of the roadway to prevent those head-on accidents, because we've gone from a few houses to lots of houses. So it's becoming a more frequent issue. So this is why we put it in our county road safety plan, and it was one of the projects that the state selected for this current round of funding. North Gobble Creek Box, which is a design phase project. That one is a flooding and a fish passage issue and a end of life. We have Brian Abbott fish barrier removal design only funds. So we're working on the design, and once we get to a 90% design, then you can apply for construction funding. This culvert has been an issue for years. It's right where the North Fork and the South Fork come together, so it's just beyond it. And so when it's really flowing, it's flowing up and almost over the road, and it will plug up. So this is one we've been happy, we will be happy to replace. Powell Road drainage improvements, that's actually the Powell Bond Road intersection. That is another frequently flooded area that we have some crab money, $500,000 of crab and close to $500,000 of local, because it'll be close to $1 million project when we're done, because we're having to replace multiple culverts to solve the issues because of the way the drainage is there. Coal Creek Road reconstruction, that's the next phase of our corridor projects that we're moving forward on. Dyke Road traffic barrier, another highway safety project, and Cloverdale Road drainage improvements. So that's about $22.4 million of total project work between now and when they're constructed.
Is that traffic barrier down where we put some temporary stuff? Because we
Yes.
found that truck down in there with that
Yeah.
gentleman in it.
That is exactly where that is.
Missing for a year or something like that.
And that is another project that was selected by the state as a good.
Because then it go like from a 50 to a 20, it's some ridiculous.
Yes, it goes 45 to a 35, or maybe it's 50 to 35. It is fast on the Dyke Access Road. And then once you get up on Dyke Road, it slows.
Pretty wild corner right there.
It is. It is a pure 90. And 50% of the accidents go into the slough, the other 50% go into the farm field.
Had a gentleman missing for a year and they found him in his truck in there.
Wow.
It's pretty wild, isn't it? Yeah.
Large orange.
Yes, that's where we put in those large orange barricades. Yeah. And and they found that gentleman purely because somebody else had gone off the road. So they had gone
Yeah.
back to get that person's vehicle and they found his instead of that vehicle
Yeah.
first. So. So here's the fun list. These are a bunch of potential projects I have on my list that we don't have secured funding except for that Mill Creek Bridge project, which I didn't change off of this list. So just we have Kalama River Road slide mitigation, that's at milepost 13.5. We have started a study on that particular project, and I have the geotech engineer's report on it to see what his options and how expensive he thinks. And then just a bunch of miscellaneous other projects, some slide repairs, Westover Lomar, which everybody knows about. That is one of the projects we were this far away from getting a brick grant. And then they didn't fund anything this year. There's Young Road, which is another project that's been lingering. So Young Road's out in Rose Valley. It, until a few years ago, had about maybe a dozen homes on it, and it has developed like crazy. There is a long section of it where it is about 12 feet wide, so you cannot pass. There's fences, and it's a very narrow issue, and I see more of these roads coming, that we have 11 to 16-foot roads that are going to be
Yeah.
difficult.
Well, it's not only it's narrow, but where it turns narrow, it has a pretty good turn and another pretty good turn, and it causes, I think there's some longer rigs that can't even make those or struggle to make those turns.
This one, people don't complain about the struggling as much. The, what is the Mountain View that's in Kalama is one that we get trucks stuck periodically if they don't
Struggle.
realize how bad it is. So that was my presentation, unless you guys had suggestions on these projects, other ideas. I put some fuzzy wildlife in because you had to look at boring roads for a long time.
I don't have any questions.
All right. Thank you. Let me know if you think of anything.
Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think you guys do when I look at other counties and stuff, I think we do a pretty darn good job in Cowlitz County with our roads and keeping up with them. So
Thank you. We're trying.
nobody's perfect, but we do a pretty darn good job. Just you? Yeah. All right, so
You're the clerk of the board now.
I got promoted. Are we under instruction not to ask any tough questions? You can always make the request.
Okay, so this is the cafe. We decided to bring this today. We moved it different dates, but today's the day and we're going to talk about the cafe. And this is an item that we started, oh my gosh.
April 1st.
Yeah, but we were in the planning for it for over a year.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea was over a year ago. So we wanted to bring you up to date where we're at, and then also make a request for permanent funding for the budget. So, oops. Okay, so I'll walk you through the numbers. So this is the current year, like Kelly mentioned, we opened the cafe in April. And so through October, we have about $13,431 in revenue. And I'm projecting for the rest of the year, so you have an annual view of what this looks like. A little over $17,000, $731 of revenue for the year from April. And then we have cafe supplies and expenses. This is mostly the food and the coffee products. That's our currently through October, $10,789. We're anticipating $2,800 for the rest of the year. So a total of $13,589. And then we have a temporary employee who we hire through a temp agency. This is not a Cowlitz County employee, it's a temp agency employee. And so far through October, we've paid $12,604. And we're anticipating about $4,500. The hours have changed on the temp employee because of, the activities that are going on at the Hall of Justice. So we're looking at about 25 hours a week right now currently.
Yeah.
So we're not open on Fridays because of the work that's going on there. And there may be some other weeks where in the future, due to however the project's going, we may have to shut down more than just Fridays. But for this year, we're anticipating about $17,100 in expenses for temp services. And then that brings us to a net revenue with the typical direct expenses of a loss through October of $9,962. Projection through the rest of the year is $3,000 loss. And I can't read this. Okay. And then year to date, through the end of the year, we're projecting about almost $13,000 loss for this project. We also had some lots of different startup costs, and those were about $6,590. We don't anticipate any more. We also had some expenses that through trial and error, we decided that it wasn't cost effective to rent. We had an ice machine, we had an espresso machine we were renting, and one other thing, coffee brew machine. And so we looked at it and we said, this is expensive for the amount of activity that we have. And so we went out and purchased some of those items for a lot less than the rental. So we won't be having any more of those expenses. So that's why I call those out as something unusual, startup and rentals that we're not having anymore. So through October, we have a loss of about $16,552. Through the end of the year, I project that the cafe will have a loss of $19,552. So currently, we have enough cash on hand because we advanced money from the general fund to supplement and support the cafe operations. So we have enough money to get us through the end of the year.
Gifted Kitchen, we still use them. I saw that they were closing.
It's in very limited things. Some of the things sell really well. So we kind of have altered what we purchase from them, and we kind of wait to see if there is a possible jury coming, and then we purchase those items. But yeah, they are closing their doors, I think, the end of this month.
Yeah, November 1st is what I remember.
Yeah.
So how do you plan on working that?
We've
Or have you thought about it yet?
We have another alternate that we can use for that.
Okay.
But we've actually purchased things prepackaged from the local grocery store that's actually a lot less expensive.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
It has been more successful too.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of trial and errors through this period because we knew it was going to be a initial undertaking. And so like, for example, we started off buying sandwiches and all kinds of things from the Gifted Kitchen, which were excellent. But as far as sales go, some of them just didn't move. The expiration dates were short on some of the items. And so we altered things all during this last, what, 7 months. And so trial and error, a lot of that. So
What's our long-term plan for this?
well, that's what I have next.
Okay.
So I put together based upon, what we've seen in the past, this past 7 or 8 months. And so I'm looking at projecting revenues, expenses based upon still the same kind of volume and activity level, because I think Hall of Justice, the construction project goes all the way through May, right? So I'm being very conservative on what we're projecting for revenue and expense and temporary services for the year. But basically, the level of volume that we have, we need to be supplemented. So this is a project that would have to receive general fund supplementation. And for 2026, because we've already infused some cash, I would only need about $16,000 of additional general fund for 2026. But on an ongoing basis, my projection is we'd need about 20,000, 20 to 21,000 a year to run this and to service it. And it's primarily the labor. So what else so there's a couple of things. There's a couple of options that I'm looking at here is that we could raise some of our prices to help cover the deficit or reduce the deficit, or we could look to general fund to help support it. We could do a combination of those two things. So we worry about the pricing because we want it to be convenient and affordable because most of the customers are our citizens. We have people in the building that utilize the service, but it's primarily the whole endeavor was based upon requests from the courts to have something. I think when we looked at it, all of the vending machines, aren't all the vending machines in
I
the,
don't think they're accessible.
they're not- yeah, all of the vending machines predominantly are in our employee areas. So there isn't really access to things in the building. And so we've looked at this. We have other operations within the county. The shooting range is an example of an operation that's for the citizens, but we supplement it from time to time with general fund. Previous to this, in 2012, we had a contract with a company called Grounds for Opportunity, and that one we paid that operation to be there and available for services in this building, right? And that was and that's way back in 2012. We paid almost $22,000 for that. So, so our request is, with supporting our citizens to do their civic duty. And so our request is to be able to continue to support this operation. We've gotten a lot of feedback. I mean, Kelly can tell you some things that she's gotten.
Yeah, I kind of added an email on there that I had just sent out a random one, and they wanted to thank, that was one of the judges that wanted to thank us for bringing that back on. We do get a lot of thanks and stuff from the juries because a lot of times they have like a 10-minute break and they can't leave and they're stuck there until lunch. And so they're very thankful to have the opportunity to just run down there and get something. If the staff was here that was there, they would be able to give you more examples, but it is well received and people are starting to rely on it being there. So I think it is a positive thing for that building.
So our proposal is for 26 to budget a supplementation of 16,000, and then for 2027, 20,000. And when we originally started this out, we thought it would be profitable, more profitable to begin with. And we thought we would be able to pay back the general fund over an extended period of time. So far we put in, like I said, about 27,000 to do the startup and to do the operation for this year. And then we need to find it a permanent home, because both Kelly and I, spearheaded this to get it started and purchase the equipment and pay the bills and do the sales tax and things like that. But it needs a permanent home. And so one of our suggestions, if y'all want to continue it, is to possibly move it to be part of the Expo Center. I've let Kim know this, and she may have comments about that. She may not be favorable on that, but when we looked at things, we said the gift shop that they run has similar characteristics. It has inventory, it has a POS system, it has to deal with sales tax. And so, that's why I'm recommending possibly the Expo Center, but I'm not opposed to another area. That one just came to mind as logical in my mind. So.
So this gives me a little bit of acid reflux. I didn't realize, I like the idea of having the cafe there. I didn't realize that we were supplementing it to this extent. Primarily when we're asking other departments to make cuts to it. I do like that you had some forethought in putting in there that we supplement the range and some of the other programs too. Because that was my next question, and it was on there.
Yeah, and not only, there's some others, I can give you more examples. The sheriff's department received funding and they supplement some of their special revenue accounts as well. And so there's more than just the range.
So the question really, what this boils down to is, in my mind, we need to ask ourselves is, do we want to be in the cafe business of providing that service to the citizens that are there for jury duty?
Yep, absolutely.
I know we did try to find a vendor and we didn't have any takers.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that I've talked to many, it just does not get the traffic. And it's very volatile, based on if we have a jury or if, something's going on in the court. So it's just not something that we just don't get enough traffic over there for a mom and pop business to come in and be able to sustain any type of income or overhead.
Yeah, we even talked about the prospect of, okay, we've been suggested maybe bring some food trucks into the parking lot area to provide some services. But when you look at the numbers, and if somebody were to ask us what kind of volume, what kind of activity, I don't know that you could even get a food truck who's to come in. And also, like we said, the activity levels it's somewhat unknown from week to week how much activity is going to be there for jury trials and things like that, activity.
We used to every once in a while bring a food truck in at work, but you almost had to guarantee them a certain amount.
Yeah.
So I understand that, yeah.
So even more so, we're actually we went into this with our eyes wide open, knowing this was going to have to get subsidized.
No, we didn't anticipate that. I did some projections based upon sales, but we didn't have any history of how many people actually come into the building for the trials and the jury. And for duties. And so didn't have a good numbers. And then we throw in, the building's undergoing construction. So that's kind of been an unknown as well. So yeah, I did not project it to lose money. I projected it to break even and maybe have a little bit of money left over to pay back a loan. But that didn't happen. And so I'd rather go into the budget for 26 and 27 with these projections, which are very conservative and based upon still having construction activities at the building.
Would you say that the construction activity has helped the sales or it has not helped them?
No, it hasn't helped.
Has there ever been a food service there before?
And how did
Yes.
it do?
Yes.
Yes.
Who ran that?
I don't know.
No.
What was that?
So it was a private business that somebody set
Yes.
up in there?
Yeah, and my understanding is COVID happened and you probably know more. Go ahead.
I think
But
COVID happened.
COVID happened and he
Pulled.
said he pulled out and what I was told, but that could be different, is that it was just kind of a project that he had because he was retired and he had told the previous commissioner that he wasn't making any money, so he didn't want to come back.
Does
Okay.
anybody, do you have any idea how successful he was before COVID? How many years was he in there? I mean, did he,
My understanding is that he was never successful, that he was doing it more of just something to do after retirement. And that when COVID happened, he had to shut down. And so he chose not to come back.
okay,
I hate to do this, but Kim, what are your thoughts on you guys taking it over?
did he offer the similar goods like what we're offering?
He did sandwiches and soup. Yeah.
His soup was really good. He was a chef, and so he didn't buy things. So he would purchase ingredients. So he wasn't at the mercy that we're currently at and that we're having to buy pre-made items. I came today to listen to what the presentation was, because I wasn't exactly sure what the ask would be for me. Thanks, ladies. So that's what I'm just listening. It also gives me heartburn going into this, knowing that there's a loss. We had talked early on when they were exploring this opportunity, and my experience was with Mr. Hooper being there, and he used to work for our caterer. So when I would go over there, I'd have conversations with him so that I know that he was not, it was a retirement gig to get him out of the house. Leave every morning and not, hang out with his wife all day. I don't know. But he, so it just wasn't something that he wanted to come back to. And I know even at the end, he was really not that happy. So I had relayed that when we were talking about this and because we had talked about having our caterer at the event center help out with this, and he was not interested either. So I don't really have any strong feelings either way, depending on what my role would be as far as, the management of the budget and that type of thing. I don't have any real heartburn with that, with it living with us, needing a place for it to land. But I'm not really familiar with food service. I do the purchasing at the gift shop. So you want to sell souvenirs there, I'm your girl. But
Yeah, maybe we can sell souvenirs there too.
my trip to the Cowlitz County Hall of Justice postcard. I'm there, but so I don't have any strong feelings either way.
Except for the fact that you said you weren't aware that it was in the negative.
Correct. The operations that I have are enterprise funds and
And they make money.
we make money. So going into something knowing I'm not somebody that's going to jump into something and give it my half effort. I will, full disclosure, I have 0 food experience. I didn't work fast food in high school. There is somebody in our room that has ran a successful coffee business. Won't name any names, but it rhymes with Ross. But we do, you know, and in the budgets that we do have, if we make money, we spend money. If we don't, we don't. So, I would defer to you. I mean, you're my bosses. If you say this is something we want to do, we want to move forward with this, and this makes sense to us, I am happy to take this on. But with that really strong disclosure that I don't know anything about food service.
And the facilities do not really lend themselves to being able to make a lot of food products there on site.
Correct. There's not a kitchen available.
So that was the reason for purchasing food. And we did receive a discount for when we were purchasing the food from Gifted Kitchen. It's just that the price already was pretty expensive. And so the margin, and like I said, we went into this saying, okay, let's make the pricing as reasonable as possible. And we weren't in it for making a profit. So, you know, there may be the opportunity to increase some of the prices, but I'd still feel uncomfortable about increasing too much because then you might drive all your sales away too. So. Want to add anything?
It doesn't take much business acumen to look at this and shy away from it. And that goes back to, I guess we just have to decide what value we place on the convenience we're providing to the jurors.
Yeah, and that's the way I would look at it is we're providing a service and you're asking people to give up their time and their day, sometimes a couple of days, to be there to do their civic duty. And we need to at least provide something. And if we don't do this, we need to find a way to have appropriate vending that's accessible and has a variety of products. But even then, when you have a vending company run those, they set the prices and you're at their mercy too. So,
I agree with most everything said. I think at the dollar amount, I'd be willing to let you put it in there, but I would say if 26, I would hope it would show a little improvement. If it just stays static and stuff, I don't know that I wouldn't say, hey, 27, we might just lop this thing out of here.
yeah. Well, you also have that ability. You do your budget. We do a 2-year budget, but we have the mid-year cycle where you could make any kind of, well, even at a budget amendment, you could make a decision that you could amend your budget to eliminate it from the budget if you needed to.
So I'd give it some leeway, but just under the understanding.
Yeah, I think it needs to be,
Do you think if you put some of your stuff in there from the gift shop that it might go? I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
create a new T-shirt that says.
I was halfway joking. I guess I would defer to you as the board if this is something that you want to continue, that this is what you decide to do. I am happy to take a look at it from a couple of different angles. One of those, you know, as far as food sourcing, talking with Summerland, they are at our event center full-time. They don't have events full-time. They don't have staff there full-time, but they do have a new kitchen manager. It may be a conversation that I have with them as far as getting products, getting trial schedule similar to how we schedule things at the event center. So I'm happy to look at those things if that's what the board wishes to do.
Well, if we do something like this, one of the things I'd noticed is it's so easy to walk through security and just get on that elevator and go upstairs and not even recognize that's there. And if we're going to continue it, I'd say put some type of, if you're going to have generic classifications of what's available in there, put some type of advertising up there on the second floor where all the jurors are standing around waiting. Maybe they'll be more interested if they have an idea what's down there.
Yeah,
But
good point.
Is there something that says that prohibits them from taking their own food and drink in? To the
I
courthouse?
know they can't take it into the courtrooms, but
What's that?
No,
yeah.
can't take it.
Into the courtroom?
All the time too. Is DoorDash to the hall?
Yes.
So there is options for people. I know you used to order pizza.
Yeah,
Take a look at it and see what we can do with it then. Make it work.
Yeah.
No pressure.
I can live with
Yeah.
that, sure.
I love Kim immensely and I don't want her to fail. And wearing a finance hat for a long time in this building. We've had vendors in this building and the other building. I personally have went out for RFPs many times. We've never got responses, or the responses were, if you train us, we'll, or if you pay us. The deli in this building and over at the hall have never been profitable. I believe the minimum was $250 for rent that they would pay us minimum. And anything else over that, then they got to keep. There is no money making in this at all. And I feel like we're setting Kim up to fail. I mean, we see the numbers, they are in the negative. It's kind of a no-win situation. I think at one time, facilities, back when Public Works was, even I think prior to them taking it over, we were looking at kind of like the walk-in vending machine where you walk in and you can't leave until you pay for your items. They had fresh fruits and vegetables. We mimicked it, or we thought we were going to mimic it after City of Vancouver has something like that in their courthouse. We talked about that because it's a staffed, kind of like the vendor comes in, they put the food in, and then you pay for whatever it is that you purchase that day. We talked about doing different vending machines on the second floor, like coffee machines, water, whatever. But I personally am worried for pushing Kim into this, just sitting back watching it. You guys killed me. The elevator's out and I had to run upstairs and I was just booking and I was totally out of breath. So thanks for letting me catch my breath. But I'm really concerned. It's never been profitable at all. That's why we don't have one in our building and that's why we have vending machines. So we couldn't even get food trucks to come in over at the hall. The last time we tried, no one was interested. It was a no money maker. So just my own 2 cents, stuff I've seen over the years been here.
Those fresh, like they're a fresh to go.
That's what that is. Yeah, that, yeah,
Yeah.
so there's a vendor canteen that does, I think that y'all had looked at maybe. Yeah. Yeah, and it has things that you can heat up too, things like that.
I did-
So,
I did look into all of those when we were going through all different scenarios. And a lot of those places required you to do construction. So there was a lot of construction that we would had to provide for
for their meal,
for their, probably, I would guess it was pretty intense.
I look at it and I know myself, I can't really speak to the jury thing because if I'm going somewhere, my wife will usually make sure that I have a snack or something like that. I typically don't prepare for that kind of stuff myself. So I would appreciate having something of that nature available to me. But at the same time, I can't support us subsidizing something for $20,000 when we're asking other departments to cut because we're in the situation that we're in. That's my angst.
Are you interested in vending machines or anything, or any type of way to approach this? Or just skip it and just let it go?
We have vending machines, and to your point, Kathy, you're right. They set the price and everything like that. And I can tell you, when I'm at Six Flags and my kids are thirsty and we pay $6 for a Gatorade, we're paying $6 for a Gatorade because they're thirsty. So from that standpoint, if people are hungry or thirsty, they're gonna pay what they're gonna pay to get it. And I know that sounds a little insensitive, but it's just the reality for me. I'm not opposed to having vending machines or anything in there. If a private vendor goes in there with their own vending machines, we're not subsidizing that. They're either gonna make money or they're not, and they're out of there.
I think we're required to use the state provided vendor.
Oh. And is that the blind thing too?
I'm not
organization?
sure, but it's an approved state approved vendor that you are required to utilize.
Yeah.
They not offer any with what has been offered.
Yeah.
Fresh food fashion, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more candy bars, chips and drinks. Yep.
Well, if they're plugging in a vending machine, unless we're billing them for electricity, we're subsidizing them, so.
So it's the pleasure of the board. I mean, it's what you would like to do.
Well, I've heard more negatives than positives, so I'd probably just scrap it.
Okay, so I hear for scrap it. Do you want to pursue vending so that we have something to provide to the,
Well, if you want to look at some other options, but I think to continue.
uh-oh.
Mike Ross, Public Services Director. When maintenance came to public services, vending machines came with it for some reason. And so we've been dealing with the vending machines at HOJ through Evergreen, and they have the state contract. You're right, correct. Part of their proceeds do go to the blind. But if you guys are gonna scrap this operation, I know they put a lot of time into it instead of maintenance, but it might be the best direction, losing that much money per year. We'd be, helpful in trying to find new vending machines, additional vending machines for the first floor and also the second floor. I am certainly aware that the vending machines we have now on the first floor and the back hallway are usually empty from the staff. So they're very, very popular with the staff that's in the secured area back there. So, like they mentioned, citizens can't go back there to get their potato chips or their pops. So if they had those up front, I think they'd be just as popular. So certainly probably be a great direction to go if we're not going to have a cafe there, and we'd assist in that. And look for other healthier options too at the same point.
Monsters aren't healthy.
Sugar-free ones.
Who's vending machines in there now? Who's running that?
It's Evergreen Vending through the state contract. Sean mentioned to me there might be options for us to purchase our own vending machines, not have to go through the state and be able to get those proceeds for our team or our budgets compared to all the money going to the state or to Evergreen, because we don't get a kickback from those vending machines. They keep all the proceeds.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because I know you guys have put a lot of work and energy into it. Like I said, I can't see, knowing we're going into it 20,000 in the hole every year to start. When we can provide vending machines to hopefully accomplish what we're trying to accomplish with the cafe, and that is to provide sustenance to the jurors.
Okay,
And away it goes.
and away we go. I don't have any other items today.
Okay,
So we'll be back at it tomorrow. Immediately following public services presentation at they're at 1:30 and we'll be right, most of the items tomorrow, all the items, what am I saying? All the items tomorrow are our public works or roads or things like that. So they'll do their presentation, their items, and then they'll lead right into their budget workshops.
Public Works show tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we will adjourn. Thank you.